Hey there everybody, Mazarok here, and today, well, we have cross-faction guilds now that are a thing. So if you have always been Horde and you want to be Alliance, if you were always Alliance and you want to play some Horde characters and play with your friends and be in the same guild, you can do that. So I wanted to go over a couple of really good racials on both sides that are really good for tanking. Now this is primarily focused in M+, but, you know, usable in Raid or anything else. Before we get into it though, please do like, comment, and subscribe. It goes such a long way towards helping out the channel. There's a Patreon link down below if you want early access videos. This one here is probably going to be an early access video as well, depending on when I can get everything released. There's also merch down below. Merch link. I only do Dungeons Fully Wrecked t-shirts, hoodies, all that good stuff. WoW Pug Bingo merch, and your Blood DK. I'm the healer now. There is a Discord link and a Twitch link. Come watch me scream. Come hang out in Discord. Have some fun. All right. Disclaimer. World of Warcraft race choice is insanely min-maxy. Play what you want. If you have the fantasy of human, orc, troll, elf, whatever, play whatever you want. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. But if you are trying to min-max your character usage, dispel usage, purges, whatever comes around, there are a couple of really good options to help you do that, and that's what we're going to go over today. But I don't want anyone thinking this is what you need to play as a tank. Some of these options are just really, really helpful. Along with the disclaimer, every race gives some sort of stat boost, so we're going to be calling that kind of a nullified across the board. Humans give a little bit more, yes, yada, 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 but all around, we're going to be looking at the things that make races unique. Alright, so, now, since cross-faction play between Mythic Plus and Raid was a thing, we've seen the rise of kind of the Dwarf MDI meta, and there's a reason for it. The Dwarf racials are both really, really good with Fireblood and Stoneform. So, removes all poisons, disease, curse, magic, and bleed effects on a 2-minute cooldown. As a tank, having a full removal of anything, now this was really, really strong back in Shadowlands with Necrotic as well, because you could remove Necrotic with this, as well Stoneform removes all harmful poison, disease, curse, magic, and bleed effects as well. Now, Stoneform for the regular Dwarves reduces all physical damage taken by 10% for 8 seconds. Very, very strong. The Dark Iron Dwarf version of this increases your primary stat by a fixed amount and an additional amount as well for each effect removed, which lasts for 8 seconds. So if you are more DPS oriented as a tank, you can do a lot more damage, increase your strength or agility with Fireblood, but you can also reduce your physical damage taken with Stoneform. I know for a fact my Blood DK is going to be a Death Knight. My Blood DK is going to be a Death Knight. Holy jeez. My Blood DK is going back to Dwarf. It was Dwarf before, but I needed it in the guild, so it is going to be going back to Dark Iron for this very reason. Both of these are incredibly strong, and especially in Season 2, where removal is really good, so Warriors and Blood Death Knights, you might want to think about being able to go over to Dwarf if that is something that you fancy. Blood Elves. Blood Elves bring Arcane Torrent, which removes one beneficial effect from each enemy. So it is a nice group purge, but depending on your class or spec as well, you will gain extra bonuses. For example, if you are a Paladin, you will restore 1 Holy Power. If you're a Monk, you will regain some energy. So while you may not have the use of Purge in every single dungeon, just gaining back resources makes this a pretty valuable 2-minute cooldown in all scenarios. Now, of course, the Purge itself is incredibly useful in Azure Vaults, Ruby Life Pools, and Not Good Offensive. There were many times last season where I honestly had a lot of uses for that group Purge, and it was really, really nice. And in the next season as well, there's going to be some dungeons and some instances where having that Blood Elf Arcane Torrent handy is going to be a great benefit as a tank, so that is something that you may want to think about using yourself. Up next, we have both Taurens. So we'll talk about Warstomp and Bull Rush for the High Mountain Taurens. Now, Warstomp has a small cast time of 0.5 seconds, and it stuns up to 5 enemies within 8 yards for 2 seconds on a 1.5 minute cooldown. Adding another AoE stop is very, very strong. Not to mention all of the other stat bonuses that you get for being a Tauren and a High Mountain Tauren. But War Stomp is really, really good and can be used beneficially as a good AoE stop, especially, you know, when you need it on a short enough cooldown. Bull Rush is a little bit different. You charge forward for 1 second, and you knock all enemies down for 1.5 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown. This can be used as a quick, I need to get out of here, and I need to move quick, so it's a nice movement speed ability, but also being able to, you know, knock enemies down, stop casts, and just kind of have that little AoE frontal stop in front of you is very, very nice. So if you're wanting more stops in your rotation, whatever tank you're playing, think about Tauren and High Mountain Tauren. Both are very, very strong. Another one here is Kul Tiran. Now, Kul Tiran, for me, the class fantasy of the look hits a little bit too much close to home. So, but I actually really enjoy them as druids. I love their druid form. Brush it off increases your versatility by a small amount, but when you take damage, you heal for 2% of that amount for 4 seconds. Now, this isn't going to be a game-changing ability, but I know for me, I'm actually going to be swapping my druid over to Kul Tiran, and having this extra, like, super mini tiny stagger along with the mini stagger that we're getting from the tier set is actually pretty good. And this does amount to quite a bit of healing for just a straight up racial over time. So if you want to add a little bit of tankiness to your rotation, not even rotation, to your spec, brush it off with Kul Tiran's really, really good, but you also get access to Haymaker. Now, Haymaker has a 1 second cast, it's a 2.5 minute cooldown, and you wind up and you just sock them. And it stuns the enemy for 3 seconds and gets them away from you. Now, this is something that you do need to be careful for because it does knock them back substantially, as it does say in the tooltip. But if you can aim them towards a wall or away from a pack that you don't want to accidentally pull with this ability, it is a nice single target stop that you can add in and just add into your kit. And you're kind of seeing, you know, you're kind of seeing a theme here, you know. Utilities and stops, very, very useful for racials whenever you can get around to it. 2 other options as well. You can go with Berserking for trolls. So this increases your haste by 10% for 12 seconds every 3 minutes. It's fairly strong, and it's a nice stat bump, and will increase your DPS, and just add a little bit more punch to what you got. If you do have, you know, 1.5 minute cooldown, you can use this every, you know, two of those or whatever, you know. Go around with it. Blood Fury for orcs increases your attack power. This is a nice straight up DPS boost. I know my orc was actually going to be swapped away from orc. My warrior was going to be swapped away from orc, but then the Heritage Armor came out, and that's a whole new thing. So Blood Fury, more DPS. Tie this to your avatar. Boom. Up next, we have Will to Survive for the human racial. Now, this removes all stun effects. You see this more commonly in PvP, but ask any Death Knight in Season 1 of Dragonflight how useful removing stun effects was. Oh, it's not great. It's not useful all the time, but my goodness, when you need it, it is really, really good. So if you are getting stunned a lot and you want to find your way out, go ahead and choose human for that. And lastly, I guess I have to talk about Vulpera, because for some odd reason, Vulpera in my community are like an actual thing. So let's talk about Nose for Trouble. When you first take damage from an enemy, you reduce that damage by 5% of your maximum health. Now, this is actually kind of really good, especially for new tanks. If you're trying to just learn the ropes of Mythic Plus, you see, this isn't as good in Raid because it's literally the first damage you take from an enemy, but in Mythic Plus, that's a lot of enemies. So it's going to help you kind of set up pulls a little bit more easier with a little bit more ease, and actually does stack up pretty well over the course of a dungeon run. So if you are a Vulpera lover, you do have a decent tank racial at your disposal. But that is it. Of course, every race has good stuff that you can use and everything like that. These are just some of my picks. I hope you guys enjoyed them. Let me know if you're planning on faction swapping to a new race this season, if your guild's going cross faction, and what are you swapping to? I would love to hear that down below. Aside from that, have yourselves a great day, everyone. I hope you guys are enjoying 10.1 as much as I am. Happy tanking.